Hey everybody, Neil Thompson from Teach the Geek here. I work with technical professionals so they can present more effectively, especially in front of non-technical audiences. And you can learn more about that at teachthegeek.com. Again, that's teachthegeek.com. And as always, remember to like and subscribe to this YouTube channel as every bit helps. I was thinking recently about Q&A during technical presentations. I've gone to a number of technical conferences, and typically with the presentations, the person will present and then they'll ask for questions afterwards. And people will ask their questions and they'll get answers. And then once they get that last question and answer, then the presentation's over. The person says thank you and they leave the stage. And there have been a number of people that I've heard say that Q&A shouldn't be the very last thing that should happen at a presentation. And I initially disagreed with that advice. But the more I think about it, the more I think maybe they're right. And the reason why I've changed my mind on the topic is if it just ends with a thank you, people might not even remember what the takeaways from your presentation were. They'll just remember it ended with the Q&A. Certainly the people who had questions and got those answered, that'll probably be the last thing on their mind. They got their question answered, and that's great. But for the other people who didn't have a question, they'll just remember the questions that other people asked. And is that what you want people to remember? I suspect the answer is no. So I am now coming around to the idea of the Q&A being right before the ending. And a way you could cue it up is, you're going through your presentation, and then you could say something like, any questions before we wrap up? And then people have that opportunity to ask their questions. But because you said before we wrap up, they know that the ending isn't there yet. The Q&A is not the ending. There's a wrap up, at least if they're listening. And then when if you were to say that, people will ask their questions, they'll get their answers, and then once that last question is asked and answered, the next thing you could say is great questions. So to wrap up, and then to say what you want to say, or here's what I would like you to take away from the presentation and say what you want to say there. So basically, the ending of your presentation is what you want people to take away from it. And hopefully that's the last thing, because it's the last thing that they hear, that's what they're going to remember, the takeaway from the presentation. So now you know that, well, I mean, I did my best to communicate the information in a useful way. And I made sure to let them know what the takeaways are from the presentation, what I need them to do, what I need them to be thinking about based on what they heard from this presentation. And that's the last thing that they hear. And if it's the last thing that they hear, hopefully it's the last thing that they remember. So what do you think? Do you think this would be a useful way to go about giving presentations, having the Q&A right before you wrapping up with asking or with telling people what the takeaways are? And if so, get in touch. Let me know if that works for you. Again, my name is Neil Thompson. I'm the founder of Teach the Geek. I work with technical professionals so they can present more effectively, especially in front of non-technical audiences. And you can learn more about that at teachthegeek.com. Again, that's teachthegeek.com. Until next time, take care and stay safe.